And there you are. Welcome once again. Now, we were off last week. I know it seems forever. It seems like it was a month or so. But the boys are back in town. We are back here on Garden America. I'm Bryan Main, John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox, ready to talk about gardening, horticulture. Let's talk about some of the rainy weather we've had here in Southern California. Let's talk about time zones. Oh, boy, I almost said something else after that. Talk about a quick filter. Has to do with zones, John. You're right. Hi, Tiger. Welcome. Hi, John. What's going on? We are back. When you're off for a week or so, you got to get warmed up. You got to shake the cobwebs off. And I'm going to toss it to John because he's thinking about what I was thinking about. And let's see what he has to say about everything.
The first words that were going to come out of my mouth, I'm going to change. The amount of rain that we had at my house, 4 inches.
I don't think we had 4 inches down here, Tiger, right?
No, I actually saw.
This
on
is
the
over
news,
the 3 days.
Yeah, I actually saw on the news that it broke it down by areas, and Palomar Mountain was obviously number one. That's our area that gets the most rain and snow usually.
Right.
San Diego International Airport, where San Diego, when they say the weather in San Diego, rainfall in San Diego takes their readings from, was 0.75 inches, which is still a really good rainfall for the area, but 4 inches, yeah, that up in Fallbrook and some of the other areas.
That's a lot of rain.
There was a lot of rain.
Yeah.
But it was, we were talking about this before the show.
It wasn't a downpour.
It was
steady.
It was what we needed in the way of it rained a little bit on Thursday. Was it Thursday?
You're
Wednesday
talking about
night?
a little more heavy shower.
Yeah, it rained
Thursday.
like a little bit on Wednesday. And then Thursday was the heavy, more rain throughout the day. And then Friday, it was just intermittent downpours here and there.
Or a consistent, if it was snowing, you'd call it a consistent, not light snow, flurries.
Flurry.
Yeah, you take the snow, look at rain the same way, and it was just a light drizzle. But
Yeah.
it was consistent, not enough to cause flooding, but enough to soak the ground.
Well, and that's the thing is, it's nice when it soaks the ground because that's
Right.
what the plants need. That's what the garden needs is, it's one thing to just downpour and then it all runs off and goes into the street or into the
I was
bottom.
going to say a light dusting. In terms of snow, we had a light dusting of rain.
There you go.
Yeah, I couldn't.
But
It takes a while,
whenever
John, but
whenever
off a
there's
week.
a little bit of moisture in the soil, I always tell people soil is if you think of dry soil, it's like a wrung out sponge. Initially, it repels water, just like a sponge repels water.
Right.
But once it is damp, it actually absorbs water like a sponge does. But you have to get it to be damp in the beginning. Otherwise, if you can dump 10 gallons of water on it, it's just going to run right off.
I noticed I tried to get a lot of things planted before the rain.
Nice.
And because I'm working on that one hill and where the old garden roses are. And I put a mulch on it after I plant. And after that first rain, it was really, really light, right?
Yeah.
Just misting. And I think we got, maybe half an inch is what I measured that first day. And then I went out in between the rainfall and just scratched the surface of the mulch, and it was dry underneath.
Yeah.
It, like you're saying, it takes a while to penetrate.
Yeah.
But that's the way it has to go. It's got to be, a little at a time in order for it not to run off and just wash everything away.
And that's like when we talk about potted plants, these people would be like, oh, no, I watered it. Yeah, you did, but the soil was dry when you watered it. That water didn't go into the roots.
Right.
It didn't saturate the soil. And it's the same thing for plants in the ground is you need to water it, and then you come back, you water a little more, and you come back, and then you soak it. And that's the best way to do it. But
I see a mutual admiration society going on on our Facebook. All our listeners complimenting each other on their pictures in the newsletter.
oh, yeah. There's
I
some
did
good
like the
ones.
tulips as well. I'm a big tulip guy anyway.
That's
so
what
that
I got
was nice to see.
my wife for Valentine's.
Did you?
Tulips?
Some potted tulips.
Yeah. I mean, you can't get her roses. That's just
No,
easy.
that would be
It's just
adding insult
easy.
to injury.
You can't cut a hydrangea bloom this time of the year, so I guess.
But the reason I
Tulips.
wanted to bring up the pictures, which we always appreciate, is I think Lisa sent me a nice picture, which I will put in next week's newsletter. But the newsletter is usually finished by Wednesday. So if I get one picture on, late Wednesday or Thursday, it won't make it in that
Well, you have
week's newsletter.
deadlines. You deserve deadlines. It's like a newspaper.
There used to be a snail bait called Deadline. Do you remember that,
Yeah,
Tiger?
I do.
It was a liquid one.
Yeah.
I don't think they make that anymore, do they? I haven't seen it for a long time.
I mean, for California, they've gotten so slimmed down on all the different products that, there's a lot of those that probably still exist elsewhere, but not in California.
Like maybe in Europe.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Inside joke.
Yep.
Did you know that snails can spontaneously generate after it rains?
Just like,
Because, I had none anywhere. It's like,
Well, they all come out when it's
rain
wet
hits
and
the
rainy.
ground and they just pop out.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
where
know
were
they're
they?
everywhere.
They weren't hiding.
We haven't had any snails, though, like I mentioned a few weeks ago, for a long time.
Well, I still want some killer snails if they ever come back on the market.
Why, did they take them off the market?
Yeah, we haven't been able to find them
Why?
lately.
It's been over a year. Last year, none available anywhere.
I wonder what's eating them.
Well,
Yeah.
killers, nothing would be eating
Birds.
them.
Do birds eat decorated snails? Because
don't
birds
know.
eat a lot of snails.
Chickens.
We've got, ever
Chickens.
since we started feeding birds in the patio, or I should say, Dana, I've seen so many species of birds that I never knew existed.
Really?
In our area.
Really?
Oh yeah. Okay, you've got the doves. Okay.
Yeah,
the sparrows, the finches. Now we've got birds that look like cardinals, which I know they're not. I guess we have
red?
orioles to a degree here,
Yeah, we do have some Orioles. Yeah.
but all these like
Red birds though? You have like a cardinal, like a red
it's
bird?
the size of a cardinal. It doesn't have the little crest on the top, but looks just like it.
Really?
Is it red? They're
But
all red?
it's no the
They're
red is,
robins.
Oh,
Robin-
it could be
Robin
Robin. Yeah.
Redbreast.
but he wasn't bobbing along.
No?
Oh, you missed that part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do that before they get to the feeder.
The red robin usually bobbing along, but he
Yeah.
anyway. So just suffice to say,
That was a big
it's
thing in
interesting.
Michigan. We would always wait for the first robin of spring.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
know,
how
because
you knew.
they would
That's how
migrate.
you knew it was starting.
That's when you knew spring was almost there.
So that was like your groundhog?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It really
spring
was.
is here.
First robin of spring. And when I moved to California, I missed robins. They you hardly ever saw any.
Yeah.
And then, but lately it seems we've been seeing more of them.
More birds.
More robins.
Right. Well, robin's a bird.
Well, you're seeing more birds because you feed them, like you say.
Yeah, I know. And then the word gets out.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's interesting to watch some of the bullies out there that will chase other birds away because of the food. It's just an interesting
Now,
little
this
thing
is
to
a
watch.
question to our listeners, too, about, the bird feeder out there. Because what bird food do you put out there? Is it a specific bird food for specific birds? Or do you just put that like gourmet blend?
It's for specific birds. Years ago, when John and we went back to was it Bayer or was it Scott's?
Scott's in Marysville, Ohio.
And they had
An
their big
ornithologist there.
their big push that year was different birds for different regions, different states, different
Right.
part of the country.
Right.
And it was very interesting. And they took
Yeah.
us on this tour. So to get back to your question, it's a general bird food skewed towards certain birds, doves,
West Coast, Southern California birds.
for the most part.
Because you're not putting like, I don't know, like pine nuts, from back east into your bird food. Because
No.
birds would never eat
But
it
if you want to
here.
have Dana on the program as a guest for 10 or 15 minutes, she can answer all these questions.
Yeah.
Because she goes out there, everything's methodical and this and that.
I thought you were going to say, speaking of pine nuts.
Oh, and also there's the squirrel food too, because we have a squirrel which we named Tarpy.
And
Tarpy
you actually
shows up
feed.
about-
You actually feed Tarby.
She feeds Tarpy. And he gets out,
Tarpy?
Tarpy. We named him Tarpy.
What do you feed Tarpy?
Blueberries, nuts,
Blueberries. Blueberries are expensive.
but they're mealy. They're bad this time of year. Talk to her. Don't get mad at me.
I'm not getting mad at you. I'm impressed.
But Tarpy comes and he'll sit there and he puts everything in his mouth, as squirrels do.
Yeah.
And then he runs away, probably stashes it, comes back, and then he's gone.
Yeah.
Hey, if you want to feed them, I've got some ground squirrel bait.
I'll bet you do. Hey, we have about a minute until our first break, which
Yeah.
will segue into the second segment, just in time for John's quote of the day, or the week, I should say. And by the way, in case you're wondering, those at home, no guest today.
Oh,
But if you read the
so ask
newsletter,
your question.
but if you read the newsletter, you'd know it.
So we're not going to do the quote till we come back?
No, let's do it now. We got a minute.
All right, the quote is from Alfred Lord Tennyson. And it was in honor of, it's the way I think of you and Bryan, but it's also in honor of Valentine's Day.
Okay.
And the quote is, if I had a flower for every time I thought of you, I could walk through my garden forever.
It's pretty heavy.
Wow.
You know what? Too bad I didn't know that in high school. I could have used that line a dozen times.
John can still use that. There's a flower for every time John thinks of anyone in his garden.
We're going to take a break, welcoming those on Biz
Especially
Talk
when
Radio.
people give you flowers, you know, every
Yeah.
time you pass it, it reminds you of them.
Welcome to Biz Talk Radio. We're going to take a break for these messages. A big thank you to our major sponsor, Fertilome. It's Garden America. Back after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. Okay, hey, lucky for us and lucky for you, we're back after that break. Thanks to those who do tune in on Biz Talk Radio, the rest of you on Facebook Live. John does have I guess you could call it some advice or a hint to better enjoy the program. Make sure you turn the volume up. It usually works a little better if you care about the dialogue and the pontification that goes back and forth, right?
You know, pine nut. I planted a pine nut tree.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I think I remember you telling
Pinus
us about that.
sedulus.
How's it doing?
It's incredulous.
Not yet. It's growing very slowly. And I think in Southern California, anyway, they do grow really slow.
They're not big trees, right?
I didn't think they were,
Yeah.
which is why I planted it.
Uh-huh.
But now I'm wondering.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why? Like
I don't
what-
think I'll have to worry. I mean, it's been there for 2 years and it's only grown an inch.
Right. Like I thought they were kind of like almost like a
Like a
like a
dwarf?
mugo pine kind of a thing.
I don't think they're that
small.
small.
An inch in a year?
Yeah. Inch in a year to 2 years.
Wow.
Maybe I'll fertilize it.
A little water, some soil, see what happens.
Yeah.
Whereabouts on the property is it? Looking at your patio doors, the sliding glass doors.
No, it's coming up the driveway
Oh, the driveway.
on the right along the road. It's on the hillside along the road.
Oh, that's why it's slow growing.
Yeah. It's near the Cedar of Lebanon.
Hey,
Go ahead.
does your neighbor has all those? Are they goats on the hillside?
Yeah, across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's that hillside doing?
Do they keep
Because-
everything?
Well, it's barren.
Yeah.
It's
That's what I
barren
was gonna
because
say,
goats.
they've eaten everything, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what happens. And with it's a very steep slope. And so,
You worried about water runoff?
oh, I can only imagine
Yeah.
it's washing away.
Yeah.
You know the green waste recycle bins?
Yes.
I usually fill 2 to 3 every week, and they're completely full.
Mm-hmm.
And now that you mention this, my neighbor said, if you want to use my cans, you can use them, because obviously she doesn't need
She
them
doesn't need
anymore.
it because they just.
And she said, just put them on my property, and I'll use it to feed the goats.
Oh,
'Cause that's
Beautiful.
a pretty big bill. She's got,
yeah,
30, 40 goats down there.
yeah. But
Wow.
but it's a very steep slope, and with all the you've seen all the fire areas and the
Right.
rain and the hillsides now washing away, and I just thought about that because that's right across the street from John, and it's a very steep hill, and goats are wonderful for when you have a lot of weeds and debris and you need them to clean it out, but
But now there's nothing for them to eat.
Yeah.
What are they eating now?
well, she has to feed them.
Yeah.
Well, I
She
know,
has to feed 'em.
but
Feed
you,
some hay and grain.
Just
and
like you
stuff.
feed these. Hey,
Yeah.
Dana, that squirrel will find its own food. You do not need to get blueberries and filet mignon. And
it's like In-N-Out. Our patio is like In-N-Out.
yeah, but
Speaking
it's
of-
like a high class in and
Yeah,
out.
it
This
is.
is like
I know,
this is like
because
a habit burger.
there's 3 or 4
something.
course meals, and you can order a la
Yeah.
carte, and there's appetizers. But getting back to the blueberries, and I said they were kind of mealy and
Yeah,
squishy.
yeah.
People, there used to be a time when
They were mealy and squishy.
People were
no, you get that way as you get older. Oh, but there used to be a time when seasons were or fruit was in season.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Nowadays, people want fruit all year long, and that's
Yeah.
why you go in to get blueberries now, and you're rolling the dice because fruit and some other fruit was not meant to be eaten and enjoyed
Right.
this time of the year,
True.
right?
True.
So don't be surprised when you go in there and your apple doesn't taste as good, or your blueberry doesn't taste as good, or your tomatoes are mealy. That's what you get because that's what you wanted.
And that's what we were talking with. Was it Ed Livo a while back about
Exactly.
the problem is now there's a lot of fruit that doesn't taste good, and now people don't get excited to buy
Right.
the apple, the orange, or whatever it is.
And he talked about what were the weather conditions like.
Yeah.
You know, how long did it take the truck to get to the store? So many things that can happen, but
But squirrels don't care.
squirrels don't care.
They
So
just eat
They
it.
can enjoy the blueberries and the nuts.
I can't believe you feed them blueberries. I can't get over this.
I bought 2 blueberries.
Plants?
Yeah, plants. Not.
I was like, that must be impressive blueberries. If
I don't
you just
think
bought
they
2.
sell blueberries by
Individual?
the each.
I don't know. It could have been the size of like a ping pong ball.
I don't think Dana's listening because she hasn't chimed in yet.
Yeah, she's
because she would
she's-
defend herself.
Yeah, she's not holding her own over there. Did you plant them, John? The blueberries?
Not yet. I had intended to put them in. I had 2 pots, and I intended to plant those pots up, one blueberry in each, and then my wife decided she wanted those back in the front of the house,
The pots?
the pots. So now the pots have 2 ficus with white pansies at the bottom.
Wow.
Maybe I'll take a picture for the newsletter next
There you go.
week.
Which
Oh,
kind of
hey.
blueberries are they?
What's the big one?
O'Neill?
No.
It starts with an M? Majesty?
No,
Majestic?
it starts with an S. And it's not sunshine blue or sharp
I'm still
blue.
concerned he's going to lose his train of thought when he said, hey, and then we went to the blueberry conversation.
Oh, keep track of that for him then.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for bringing. I did lose my train, and you put me back on track.
Choo choo, baby.
Listen, last week we weren't here, but listeners listening to us this week, if you read last week's newsletter, I wanted to thank Paula for letting us know about the video that Ruth Stout had made. You know, Paula said when she was in New York, she heard Ruth address a garden club. And I put a link to the video in our newsletter. If you did not see that video, you really
gotta
need to go
watch it.
watch it. It's hilarious. And if you don't have the newsletter, I think if you just go to to YouTube and put Ruth Stout's garden, the video will come up.
Well, why not just subscribe to the newsletter?
Well, it's too late. I already posted it.
Yeah, but I mean in general. I'm sure there'll be other fascinating videos.
You
and
don't want to
links.
miss out on the next one.
Yeah, exactly. So I see all the people, we have names of all the people that we can see right now watching us on Facebook Live. I wonder what the percentage is of those people who get the newsletter.
You know, and it's only $1 a month, $12 a year. That's not bad, right?
Yeah.
How do we do it, John? Volume. How
We
do
actually
we do it? Volume. We don't charge for that.
Actually, we've been thinking about it, but so far there is no charge. And it's we've been thinking about this for 15 years, and for
Yeah,
15 years
exactly.
there's been no charge.
Well, we never make any hasty decisions.
No,
Why start now?
right.
Any questions or comments? Are we caught
see.
up on anything?
Well, I wanted
Someone
to
had a branch fall through their greenhouse. Was that Lisa?
And I know Lenore wanted to know if she gets a discount on Fertilome. I saw that.
Oh yeah,
Good question, Lenore.
Tiger.
What?
Lenore wants to know if she can get a discount on Fertilome.
On Fertilome what?
Anything.
Anything?
You know, we'll get back to you on that, Lenore.
Yeah.
Wait,
What if you talk to Fertilome and say, "Hey, can we have a
giveaway.
coupon?"
There we go. We can do that.
Yeah, let's get them more involved.
Yeah.
They're keeping us on the air, folks. Love your Fertilome. That's our mantra for this year. Love my Fertilome. Okay, we're going to take a break.
Oh, all right.
And then people are still wondering, okay, guys, 2 segments. What's your show going to be about today? What's
Well,
the theme? What's the title?
First of all, we have a lot of things that our listeners have posted that I want to get into
Okay.
when we come back.
And we're going to do that after this break. We're going to take a break for our good friends at Biz Talk Radio, our good friends at Fertilome. Stay with us. This is Garden America. Bryan Main, John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox on your weekend or whenever you're listening to us here on Garden America. All righty. It was a great break for us. Hope you had a good break. Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live. A lot of questions, comments John wants to get to. Today's theme is what's on your mind. We're going to let the listeners, drive the boat, pull the train out of the station, and choo-choo. Here we go again, John.
Yeah. Shout out to our friend Kim in Tucson, by the way.
The Garden Club, right?
Yeah, she hasn't. Carla mentions that she hasn't seen Kim for a while, so glad to have her back with us.
Veronica just said, yes, coupons. We're on to something here. with
There you go.
We
Fertilome.
should have a Fertilome show, and then we'll have some
Okay.
coupons, and
We will
can
do that.
Do that, yeah.
See,
Tigro set that up.
See how easy that was? Ask and ye shall receive.
Yeah. Veronica in Spring Valley says that she bought a new blueberry and another thornless blackberry and 2 figs. And I just planted a fig last week. I trying to think of the name. Oh, I guess I should know the name. It's a tiger fig.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Nice.
You know why they call it a tiger fig?
Because it has stripes.
Yes.
It's funny. She said the thornless blackberry. Those blackberries, raspberries. Why would you buy anything but thornless?
There is a reason you
yeah,
would do that.
that's what I'm asking. Like, why would you buy anything but thornless? Because
I
they're
wouldn't,
very difficult.
But the reason most or some people would,
Mm-hmm.
thornless is relatively new, by the way. They've bred them without thorns, but they're not as productive as the blueberries.
That have
the
thorns.
blackberries or raspberries with thorns.
Really?
Yeah.
So
So that would be the reason.
you get less production, but you don't die.
Right.
Right. Better flavor. You don't die. No
Yeah.
thorns.
So they really do get, because I feel the berries, they get pretty good production, but they're substantially more for the thorned varieties.
Almost double.
Almost double. Wow. So if you need blueberries and raspberries, you're a thorn plant, because you
Not
get
blueberries. Blueberries don't have thorns.
blackberries. What is it? Blackberries, raspberries, and
Young berries.
young
Yeah.
berries. Isn't there another boysenberries? That's the other one. That's the one I was
Boysenberry.
trying to think of.
Okay.
Boysenberries. All of those are thorned, but they have thornless varieties.
You know where the boysenberry came from?
Knott's Berry Farm.
Yeah.
Very good, Tiger. That was, Knott's Berry Farm. It's like Six Flags right now.
It's closing.
What, Knott's Berry Farm?
Yeah.
Well, what I was going to say is, back in the day, even before my day, but when I was a kid, it was just a place to go up and maybe pan for a little bit of gold and sell some jelly.
Yeah.
It was like an old
I love it.
It was like an old Western town kind
Yeah.
of, that old flavor. And then it became what it is today, and now it's closing down.
Yeah.
The Knott's family, right, John?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carla says that her daughter received a pretty little potted Italian stone pine as a Christmas gift.
Cute.
And she heard it grows around 40 feet. I think it's actually 60 to 80 feet.
Yep.
But Carla doesn't want to throw it out, so she wants to know if she can put it in a pot till it starts to get too big and then donate it somewhere if it's still alive. What do you think?
I think that she can definitely put it in a pot until
Right.
it gets too big.
As far as donating it, isn't that like donating a...
Yeah. I know where you're going with this. Exactly.
But let me ask
It's
you
like
this.
donating
Go
a
ahead.
tiger to someone.
If you put it in a pot until it gets too big,
I was going
Yeah.
to say like donating a Washington fan palm.
Yeah, exactly.
okay, so now it's too big for the pot.
Yeah.
So if you kept
Put
it
it
in
in
the
a
pot,
bigger pot.
but if you kept it in that pot, would it stunt its growth, or would it then begin to look bad?
Did you ever hear of bonsai?
Yeah.
I mean, you can keep conifers in pots
yeah.
for a long time.
Right. So I don't. What
What you do
What would
is
her desire be to get
you
rid of
do-
it?
Well, but
if it gets too big for the pot and you don't
Yeah,
want to keep
she's not
putting it
gonna
in a bigger
bonsai
and
it.
bigger
Yeah,
pot,
but just leave it in the same pot, right?
well,
that's
you
what
know,
you said
eventually
about
there's
your ficus.
no soil left and they just die.
yeah.
But the way you trim a pine tree is they will put out new growth in the spring, right? And that new growth is called a candle. It
Yeah,
comes up.
It looks like the tips of the.
It looks like a candle, and then the needles all come out
Yeah.
from there. When it puts out those candles, if you cut it in half,
Yep.
each candle that comes out, cut in half, and that's how you keep a pine compact.
Control its growth.
Most conifers.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she brings up a very valid question and concern, and that's sometimes where this whole donation of plants kind of comes into play. Now, you would think like, oh, I should be able to donate a pine tree and they should plant it somewhere. Well, number one, if they're planting it somewhere, a size sizable plant, it needs care when you transplant it. And when they reforest an area, they don't plant 5-gallon trees or 15-gallon trees because those would require maintenance and care. They do little seedlings. And they do it during a time of year when there's going to be rain and cool weather.
So they're self-sufficient.
Exactly. So it's very difficult. And then you would say, oh, well, some kind of preserve or botanical garden. And usually they won't take, like what John said, that's like taking, most of the time that's like taking like a Washington palm or a ficus benjamina. And they're like, that's not what we want to take.
Find a neighbor who wants to take over.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just tough because, the answer is to throw it away. Mulch it, chip it. If you're really looking to recycle it, then that's the correct way to do it, is just put it in your green bin.
Carla wanted to know what other figs I bought, and one I've never tasted, and I don't know anything about it, but anything that's big, I've always been attracted to. Like there's a book,
not roses,
a book called Giant Vegetables. And, they'll talk about cantaloupe that weighs 35 pounds or corn that grows 20 feet tall, sunflowers that grow like 20 feet tall.
With giant, massive heads that will fall off and crush kids.
You run into one of those at night when you can't see. It's scary.
But anyway, there's a neri fig, Neri, which is supposed to be one of the largest fruits of a fig. And supposed to be really good. So I planted that.
Is it like a breadfruit and just puts out like one right next to the trunk because that's all the branch that can sustain it?
I had you're talking about right next to the trunk.
Yeah.
I had at my old house a Jabata Caba.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it took... The thing about planting a Jabata Caba is if they're seed grown, which most of them are.
30 years.
No, not 30 years, but it takes about 15 to 20 years. So anyway, after about 15 years, mine started to flower, and I always liked the pictures of them flowering because they flower right on the trunk and the branches. Mm-hmm. And because of that, the fruit is right on the trunk. And again, the pictures just really intrigued me. So I waited 15 years to find out that nobody liked the fruit. I think I talked myself into liking it just because
15 years.
I waited a long time for this.
I'm going to like this.
You're like, this is delicious.
But anyway, I didn't plant one at my new house.
So Veronica was saying, because we were talking about the thornless berries being less productive than, and she said she had great production. And that's the thing, is that's like saying a thornless lemon has better or less production than a thorned lemon.
Yeah.
You still get great production. For most people, it's not like it only produces 3 or 4 berries.
Right.
Like you still get enough.
Yeah, I didn't say that you get poor production with thornless berries.
Less.
I just said less.
Less production.
And
so Tiger's saying less is more.
Well, less is more when you don't have to wear a leather suit to work with the plant. Bougainvilleas and thorned berries, because there's really no way to keep a thorned berry nice. You know what I mean? Like you try to train it, you try to like put it on a fence, but at some day you have to work with it and trim it and cut it and clean it, and it's not fun. I just feel for the people that have to do that on a regular basis because, bougainvilleas are the
worth
same
all
way.
that for the end result?
People always are like, oh, bougainvilleas are beautiful. Bougainvilleas are beautiful. Like, here, cut one back, and then let's see if you want to plant another one.
And then have some fun and transplant it and see how well it does. We had one in our backyard when I was a kid. I had no idea what it was. I just knew it was a nice little plant that had red flowers on it.
A lot of color.
But they were all over the place, all over the lawn.
Oh, no. Kim, Tucson, right? Kim, my entire yard and all my gardens were destroyed in the last monsoon, along with my gazebo, roof of my kitchen. I've been busy rebuilding. Dang.
Oh, my gosh.
My goodness. Kim, good luck. There's a lot going on over
Well,
there.
an eerie silence fell over the studio after that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's
Kim,
more. There was more to that. But
Our heart goes out to you.
yeah, it is good therapy though.
We got to
working in the
take a
garden.
break. Running a little bit late here, but we are going to take a break. Come right back for Biz Talk Radio. This is Garden America. Okay, we have returned, obviously, and for those on Biz Talk Radio, this is the final segment of Hour 1. We give you 2 hours. Hopefully your market carries 1 or both hours here on Garden America. You've got news coming up top of the hour. We're back at 6 minutes after. Facebook Live just keeps on rolling right along. It's been sort of a free-for-all this morning in terms of discussion, topics going back and forth. This is thorny. That's not thorny. That won't grow. That'll get too big. Can I transplant it? Can I give it away?
It's too many questions.
A lot of things going on. What
My
have you?
head
What
hurts.
did you come up with during the break?
Well, I was just going to mention, since we're talking about thorns, I planted on my hillside a Bardu Job or Bardu Job, however you want to pronounce it, rose, and it's thornless. I didn't plant it because it's thornless. It's just one that is thornless.
It's an old rose that's thornless.
Yeah, it was the rose that is the center point
Of all
or
thornless.
center topic of the book, the Alcatraz rose.
Oh.
That they found on the Alcatraz Island.
Yeah, that our buddy Greg Lowry found or discovered supposedly on the island of Alcatraz. You know, the island of Alcatraz used to have a rose garden.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the
The
inmates
took care of it, right?
The inmates took care of it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and not just the inmates. They
And Al
had,
Capone used to
they
play
had people
banjo
that
in his
lived
cell.
there. You know, they had families that lived there,
Yeah.
the guards
Yeah.
and
Right.
you know, and all of that. So they have whole gardens, beautiful gardens on
I guess
Alcatraz.
it was too expensive to maintain, right? They closed it in 1963.
Then the Indians took it over,
Right.
Native Americans.
And it used to be an army base, I think, before that was
oh, was it
some
really?
kind of military, I think, prior to it becoming a prison. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's changed hands a number of times.
That was The Rock before Dwayne Johnson.
Uh-huh.
Yes, it was. And before the
It was
Rock
the
Church
Nicolas
here in
Cage.
San Diego.
Nicolas Cage rock.
Yes, indeed.
That rock. Kevin Lawrence, some plants just grow bad fruit. I tried a couple of pluot trees and strawberry guavas, and the fruit was horrible. But my friend from Vista gave me some strawberry guavas from his tree, and they were delicious. Like the Bible says, if the tree bears bad fruit, then cut it down, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Now, I mean, I definitely feel there's a lot of there could be a range of varieties of strawberry
And
guava.
wouldn't you give it a season or two
Well,
to see?
you know, you said it earlier in the sense of it could be having to deal with the time it was harvest, different growing situations and
Right,
stuff
right.
like that. I imagine there's a variety, quite a few varieties of strawberry guava. You know, I mean, when you nowadays you pretty much it's just strawberry guava and that's what you get.
I never thought strawberry guavas were that good. Did you?
Well, I mean that's just it. I mean they're very specific.
Strawberry
flavor.
Strawberry trees. I never thought the fruit was that great
Right?
either.
They are, yeah, they are beauties.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are only for the birds. You know, and growing conditions also change the flavor, and that's I mean, let's be real. One of the biggest crops based on growing conditions is grapes and wine. And very specific flavors come
Right.
from very specific regions, and that's the same for all plants. I mean, growing a tomato somewhere is going to make that same variety of tomato taste different. Growing it in its ideal climate environment too. So, I don't know. I think-
Brian, do you remember when we were in France and we went to the one winery that it looked like it was planted in rocks?
Yes.
the grape, or what do you mean?
the
what was
grape.
The
planted?
actual grapes itself.
The actual grapes in the vineyard. It was the Ville. Our listeners probably know the Ville something de Pop, Ville Chateau de Pop. I don't know. It's like the Pope's Vineyard or something.
Yeah, that sounds good.
But anyway, years ago we were selling the miniature grapes, the pixie
Oh yeah,
grapes.
yeah.
Do you remember
Yeah,
those?
I remember those. I remember
Right.
John from John and Bob's had like a little mini
yeah.
vineyard in his front easement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I still have one of those. And when I was over there, I thought, I'm going to take a couple of these rocks home. So, and they were they look like Mexican beach pebbles, except they're tan or brown. So I've got my little miniature pixie grape in a pot with those 2 stones that I brought from that vineyard there. So it's always good memories just looking at that.
Look at you.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because in Spain, when we would visit a vineyard, when you go to a vineyard in California,
What, Napa?
just
For the most,
California, Temecula, Napa,
Sure.
they just have these wide open hills that just have grapes growing all over them, right?
Right.
But in Spain, like you say, it was like a rocky mountain.
Yeah.
Like not an easy to harvest, not an easy place to grow. But I think that the soil conditions were really good they were growing there.
Right.
And but it blew me away, because we would remove those rocks.
Yes. It's all about convenience.
Yeah. We would make it as flat as possible and remove those rocks.
Well, the vineyard I'm talking about, there's no way you'd get a rototiller through
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It's amazing. I was wondering the same thing. Like, how did they plant those there?
I don't know. I guess once you've got them in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like they used to say about avocados. If you can dig the hole, you can plant the avocado. It'll grow. All right.
Are we caught up?
Oh, I like Lisa's comment here. She says, I have a lemon that fits the bill, like ready to take out. She wants to remove it. In 12 years, it hasn't grown over 6 feet, and never a lemon. A waste of real estate. Now, if you have something,
if it had grown 6 feet with good lemons, that would have been great, because you could pick them easy.
and that's a big question for people, is how much time before you just call it?
I think 12 years.
You think 12 years? I think like 2 years, especially on a lemon.
Well, no, I'm saying, yeah, okay.
If anybody wants to come to my house, you get free lemons. You can pick all you want.
I think it depends on your patience, but I would agree that after 12 years, it's probably a good idea to take it out.
Yeah,
It's not doing anything, right?
A lemon should be producing in 1 to 2 years,
Right.
even a small one, like a 5-gallon one.
That's how you tell if a doctor's successful, by the way. Depends on his patience.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. And you know what else you're correct on? You're looking at me thinking, is it time for a break? And you're right, John. It is time for a break. We have news coming up for Biz Talk Radio.
And the answer to Veronica's question when we come back.
Okay, so we're back at 6 minutes after. Hopefully you can catch us. You can always go to our Facebook page every week, Garden America Radio Show. Tune in live and be an active participant. So do stay with us. Facebook Live coming back quicker. Biz Talk Radio back after news and these messages from Fertilome and other supporters of Garden America. Yes, indeed, we are ready. Well, we had to be quiet. It was during the break. And I know people were watching us. We can't hear them. What are they talking about?
But no, it's not frustrating, but it's like awkward sometimes when I'm trying to read and do things, and then I look up, and it's like you guys had a moment. Because you guys looked at each other, and then you looked at me, and then you just smirked. Like, what did I do? Like,
I don't know.
What were you looking at?
More
what was
like
it about me?
With me,
Brian
it was
and
more
I
like,
were thinking the exact same thing. He's so cute.
No, that's definitely not it.
basically a quick glance at John, like, you're ready. And then John kind of gave me the nod, like, all right.
Yeah.
And then it was looking at you like, are you ready?
Well,
'Cause you were deep in thought. You were
I am
reading
deep
something.
in thought. Yeah, and so I thought you guys were making fun of me about
Oh,
something.
no.
Oh.
We'd make fun of you right to your face.
Yeah,
we wouldn't,
exactly.
We wouldn't be coy about it.
That's what I thought. It was so weird.
We wouldn't do it during the break.
No, we do it on the air live so
Right.
everybody else could hear.
See,
Yeah. What were you doing, by the way, Tiger?
I was reading the questions, and I asked you if you know where Veronica was in Spring Valley, because her question is specific. When should I plan for the last frost? Seed catalogs with sales are dangerous. Now I have lots of seeds to start. And if she's in Spring Valley, pretty much the end of this month is like the last frost, right?
Right.
End of February.
Yeah, end of February, you're safe. Should be safe for sure.
Be. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But the ground still has to warm up to plant certain things, right? If you're planting like squash or warm season crops or corn, you don't, even though there's not going to be a frost, you don't want to plant
So
those
maybe
yet.
mid-March to be safe?
No, I wouldn't plant those until, what would you say, Tiger, mid-April?
April.
Okay,
Yeah.
another month after that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because like John says, I think the biggest risk that people run when they do that early,
The ground?
especially, is their seed rots in the soil, like it
Right.
just stays wet, and then they get frustrated because it never
Right.
comes up.
That's where the term
Or
bad
the
seed comes up.
seed does germinate because we'll have warm days and then the soil's too cold for the roots and wet on top of it and they just rot.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, the early stuff that we're talking about, the end of this month, you're good to go from there, March, and then the later stuff, mid-April is perfect time.
You have Tomato Mania coming up next month, right?
March, yeah, March. I don't know the date. I'm sorry, but it's coming up next month. Tomato Mania. That's a fun.
Do you take part? Are you actually there?
Not usually.
I know because you less and less time at the nursery and more time out on the road.
Yeah, but I mean, lots of fun varieties of tomato, and that's always nice to be able to buy the plants. It's hard to sometimes get some of the seeds, but
I don't think I've had a sun sugar tomato, John, in years.
really,
Years.
I thought, what was the one you got last time? Didn't you get a sun
No,
sugar last time?
it was something else that was sweet that was comparable to the sweetness of sun sugar.
Really?
Wasn't it, didn't you have a Tomato of the Year that was really sweet that you gave him?
Yes, and what was the name of that? And it was really good.
I don't know.
It was a couple years ago.
A couple of years ago, because I feel like the bronze. There was like
If
there
you
was
said
some,
it, I would recognize the name.
There was like the atomic something or another, atomic
Yeah.
boar, and
Something like that.
yeah. But
Ed Livel, by the way, Tiger said that he agrees with you. No more than 2 years of poor production or growth, and he rips
Get
it out.
rid of it.
yeah, because I mean, if you're not getting something in a couple years from a fruit tree, it's, I mean, when
Sayonara.
that's why you got it, was production. I mean, I can understand like avocados. Some things just require time.
But you would know that going into it.
Correct. But a standard citrus or an apple or one, those, they should be growing quickly for you and having some kind of production. Yeah.
Carla has a rose question, and she said she read that iceberg roses can tolerate some shade. Is that true? It depends. If you're in Temecula, they'll take some shade, no problem. Yeah. But they can mildew, and on the coast, I mean, they're not mildew magnets. It's not something you normally have to worry about. But the more shade that you give it on the coast, where you already have cool weather and less sun, it may be more of a problem than it would inland. But it is one of the roses that does tolerate some shade.
Oh, for sure. And Bryan and I were talking about this problem before the show, that this is the time of year that's so difficult for people in Southern California, because you could be driving around town. Oh, iceberg roses. You could be driving around to any In-N-Out in Southern California, and they're going to have beautiful iceberg roses where their stores are. They always plant icebergs in their stores. But like, that doesn't mean yours should look that pretty, because maybe it's shadier, or you're in a cooler area,
right.
Or, I mean, they also have a gardener that's taking specific care of them. And, it's, you judge your performance based on other places or what you see. And you have to be careful doing that, because you have to think about,
how come they can grow that and I can't?
Yeah.
And that's how people sound when they ask that question.
The same problem. That's why they have different rose societies too.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Del Mar Rose Society, California Coastal Rose Society. There's a Temecula Rose Society. Mm-hmm. Plants that do really well, or roses that do really well on the coast, may not be the best for inland, but usually it's roses that are good inland may not do well on the coast. Almost anything does well inland. Almost. If you're on the coast, a good way to decide whether a rose you know nothing about is going to do well there is you might look at where the rose came from. So if a rose was bred in England, for instance.
Oh, I can take all kinds of cool weather.
Usually.
Should be able to, yeah.
Usually cooler weather. Not always true, though. like David Austin roses come from England, but some of the early David Austin roses mildew a lot.
Right.
The later ones, not so much.
Yeah, I had Green Planet inland in Santee, and then in 2008 moved it out to where I am now. I'm trying to think if I had any other roses. And that might be the oldest rose I have.
Wow. I didn't realize you had it back in Santee.
Well, yeah, because I got it at the auction in 2004.
Wow. This year's the 25th anniversary of the auction.
25.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
So we were there from almost the beginning, right?
I gave you the date, right, to mark down.
Yeah, you said make sure you're there.
Yeah.
I just figured you'd tell me again.
It's like
I didn't mark it
October 25th
Yeah,
or
we're
something
there.
like that.
No worries.
Sure. Yeah.
Wait, this year? October this year? 25th?
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
You're doing the 25th on the 25th?
Hey, so let me ask you a question from a quasi-geographical point of view.
Okay.
Would you say that where I live,
Okay.
or the 15 right there,
Yes.
would you consider that the coast?
No.
Thank you. And here's what's really interesting is that, Alexa gives you all these things.
Yeah.
Your package is here, weather reports, going to rain, whatever. Constantly gives us a high surf advisory in effect for the Scripps Ranch area. What?
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We just got one this morning. High surf advisory for the Scripps Ranch area. And there's no way to explain to her, because Alexa's on the
thought
phone
she was
talking to her
smarter
friends,
than
doing
that.
her nails with curlers in her hair, playing the music
Yeah.
for people now and then. That's how I picture her. But I'm thinking, why? What are you talking about?
Oh, my goodness.
We're not the coast. That's my own little irritation. I get it.
Lenore,
Carla says the area that she has for the iceberg rose is 4 hours of sun. I would say I would recommend against it.
Yeah, that seems.
4 hours of sun would be great.
You know what? That sounds like my patio.
Yeah. I could only imagine like it'd be good for about 1 year, and then she's going to be battling mildew, no foliage, and spotty blossom.
I would say do hydrangeas instead.
Oh, there's a good one.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nice. There's so many new hydrangeas. The new doubles. Tiger planted a bunch of hydrangeas at my house, and you probably had 6, 8 different types.
Yeah. Yeah.
I bet your wife loves that,
She
right?
loves it.
Yeah, she does.
And they look beautiful right around April, May.
Do you remember the Griffin begonias that I had planted?
I was just telling Tiger that mine right now looks terrible because it's supposed to.
Right.
It's all spindly, dead looking, but that's what it does this time of year.
Right. And so that's what mine looked like that were by the patio door. So Shannon pointed out to me, yeah, now's a good time to dig those out.
No.
So I dug them out,
Really?
planted them up on the hill,
Okay,
and put
okay.
3 hydrangeas where those were.
So we're going to take a break right now. Speaking of that, I had the same conversation with Tiger this morning.
Comment on Lenore's question or comment.
Okay,
when we get back.
we have to take a break. Commercial sponsors, Fertilome, Biz Talk Radio, and Facebook Live. Back after these messages. There's a lot more show. Stay with us. Okay, that means we're back after the break. Hope you had a good break. We did. Facebook Live, Biz Talk Radio. A lot to catch up on. Basically, we've been revolving around the questions and comments that people on Facebook Live this morning, Tiger.
Yeah, and our next topic is based on Lenore's comment, and she wrote, "One of my cherry trees has a couple of bloomings, and 2 plumerias got a new leaf." And I'm just so glad that we live in Southern California where, those issues of maybe flowering plants out of season a little bit or, plants emerging a little earlier is usually not as detrimental as some of the other areas that when, their plants start early.
And they get a late frost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So they lose the whole crop.
They lose everything that goes,
How cold does it get in Canyon Country?
Oh, she gets freezes.
Yeah,
up
she
there.
does.
So she does well.
Yeah.
Cherries obviously should do well
Oh,
for
I mean,
her.
if she has a cherry, it's cold there.
Right,
Meaning, like,
exactly.
You can only grow cherries.
But no,
where-
didn't she say that there's some cherries that don't require as
Yeah, there's low chill cherries.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, and that's a battle that we have during this time of year of emerging of the transition in
Like
seasons.
my Pope John Paul that bloomed 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
But the nice thing about the Pope John Paul is that the plant's not going to die or you're not going to get any fruit off of it
Right.
if you get a late season frost. Where the problem lies is where some of these fruit trees are grown, and like John said, they get a late season frost or they get a storm, and then when it's blooming,
Yeah.
and then you get like zero production, and you spent, we're talking about 2 years investment in a tree, and if it doesn't produce, well, what if those 2 years you got late season storms or late season freezes or it emerged early and then didn't produce? But that also is why all of these plants have certain criteria, because you need to plant plants that don't emerge until later, or wait. The marginal plants are where you struggle, and it's always tough when you have these plants that emerged early for you wherever you grow.
That was one of the reasons I moved to California. I planted a tree wisteria, which you don't normally see in Michigan, and 8 years without blooming.
Oh,
Finally, the 8th year, it was covered in buds that got to be about an inch long, and then a freeze came and killed every single one. I said,
After 8 years.
That's it.
Oh,
I'm
man.
leaving. Let's see. Lila in Poway, Bryan, wants to know. She was looking back in her notes. She's got a file on you, and she wants to know if it was the terracotta tomato. That was one. It was somebody's name, terracotta. Do you remember? That was the tomato of the year about. It was from what, 1890 or something like that.
Yeah.
Really old tomato.
Sweet.
Yeah, but I don't know if you had mentioned that. I had grown one and said it was my wife's favorite tomato.
Yeah.
Said it was the best one she ever
That
ate.
was the one that was planted right outside the trailer.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, I think it was called
Thornburns.
Thornburns terracotta.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Kevin says that your Alexa's probably thinking Scripps Pier.
Instead of Scripps Ranch.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Scripps Ranch, Alexa.
Tiger Kim in Tucson wants to know if you have a tomato event at your nursery. That's the Tomato Mania we were talking about.
Yeah.
She said that her sister Melody lives in La Jolla and mentioned it.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll find out right now. Let's see here. Tomato.
Now, do you always have, is it different than the garden walk, or do you have the two at the same time?
No. Garden Walk is always Mother's Day weekend.
Oh.
And Tomato Mania is in March. Let's see here. March 8th through the 9th. Saturday and Sunday. March 8th and 9th for Tomato Mania.
It was funny. We had a post here from Veronica that we didn't understand because it said Alexander's a dumb blonde and didn't know what she was talking about, and she just posted darn autocorrect Alexia.
Yeah.
So it still came out.
Still
Alexia.
came out. Yeah.
That's funny.
It's frustrating when it autocorrects you when you spelt it right, and then you got to go back and respell because it's not all it's
So if
frustrating.
somebody's using their voice
Oh yeah.
to send a text message, and let's say they want to send it, they're using my name, it'll always come up Brian.
It's because you're weird.
And yeah, of course.
And you spell it with a Y.
And so I said, and they know me. It's like, oh, sorry, it's an autocorrect, or I was doing the voice text. I know you spell it with a Y.
Does that all come out? Does that all come out in the text?
Sometimes
It's
not.
like Brian, blah blah blah. Oh, by the way,
I'm using
I'm using
my voice text, right?
and it spelled your name Brian with an I.
Sometimes I think
instead of a Y.
it's convenient, but more of a problem trying to use the voice text because then you have to go back anyway and look
and edit. And
Is
sometimes
there a
it's
period
harder.
there? They didn't put a comma there.
Yeah.
That's not what I said. I said yard, not yard, or whatever.
Kevin says that one of his rose bushes didn't get pruned back this past fall.
Uh-oh.
And now it has
over.
rose hips, and he wants to know what to do when it has rose hips. Well, first of all, Kevin lives in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho,
Yep.
which is a little bit colder than San Diego.
Yeah, just a little
just
bit.
a wee bit.
But Kevin, you don't have anything to worry about because in cold climates, you usually don't prune until spring.
Yep.
Because most of the pruning is not to shape like we do here in Southern California. Your pruning is to cut out all the dead wood. So usually you would not prune your roses in the fall. You would let them set hips, go dormant, and then prune them in the spring.
You're right on schedule.
Yeah.
Don't worry about
Unless it's a once blooming rose, which you prune after it's done flowering.
Which you're already too late anyways.
Right. Right.
So, don't worry.
In that case, you would let it come up and bloom now
Yeah.
in the spring. And now in the spring is May and Coeur d'Alene, the end of May. And then after it bloomed, you would cut it. But it's probably an ever-blooming rose, I would guess, Kevin. So, yeah, just wait till the snow melts and then prune it.
And also, do you even need to prune it? Like, is there a need, like requirement?
Well, wild
to prune?
roses, we've talked about this, that nobody
like,
cares
if you
for
just
roses.
If you just didn't prune it,
Cemetery roses.
what would be the problem?
Well, if you go to any landscape in the world, they don't have pruners out there.
Yeah. No, but,
Yeah.
but I mean,
It depends. There's reasons to prune and reasons not to prune. And if you don't,
Shakespeare, right? To prune or not to prune.
right. But the less you prune a rose, the more flowers you get.
And we're going to take a break on that note.
Okay, there's more to it.
There is more.
When we come
Pruning
back.
roses, to prune or not to prune. Stay with us. Break for Biz Talk Radio. This is Facebook Live as well. Bryan Main, John Begnasker, Tiger Palafox. Back after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. All righty. We have returned from the break. And just prior to the break here on Garden America, John was discussing pruning roses, whether to prune, not to prune. Kevin with his rose hips in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So let's pick it up from there.
All right, well, why do people prune roses?
Shape them?
Well, it depends. If you grow hybrid tea roses, those are usually grown for cutting, right?
Yep.
Normal people would grow them for that. Collectors are not normal people,
You just want to have it.
right? They just want to have it. But you want long stems that you can put in a vase. So what you do is you cut those down every year. You want to encourage new basal breaks, which is a new stem that comes up from the base. But those will come out with long stems and a bloom on the top. Mm-hmm. So if you don't prune those, you end up with really weak stems and a bunch of flowers on the top,
Kind of fluff
which is
over a
fine
little bit,
for
too.
color, but not so good for the plant.
I learned about basil breaks this morning, Tiger.
Did you?
A basil break.
What about thyme or oregano breaks?
I have to think about that one. I like basil breaks. It makes you sound really smart.
What would be another reason why you have to prune? Like, what if there is a lot of dead growth on the plant? Is that harmful?
Yeah, no. Yeah, you want to prune out dead growth. You want to keep the plant rejuvenated. So when you get old woody stems, cut those out. Even on climbing roses, always want to keep fresh growth. So once a stem is 3 or 4 years old, you may want to just cut it out at the base.
I'm always amazed by roses because you can have completely rotted, dead parts of the plant, but then you could have very much alive, vigorous parts of the plant too. You know what I mean? All on the same rose, you can have these parts that are almost like decaying off of it, and then you
It's
can
a very
have
tenacious plant.
yeah, and it's amazing that they still will produce on that alive part kind of a thing. Yeah. So Kevin,
Yeah,
don't worry, you're good.
Yeah.
Prune probably for him. What do you say? Prune in April? Is that what you determined for him?
End of April.
End of April.
Yeah,
Kevin.
maybe mid-April. It depends.
And that's the nice thing about living in an area where it's cold is there's also a
Yeah.
little bit of self pruning that happens.
I usually just say after the snow melts.
Yeah.
Prune after the last snowfall.
Yeah. And you do run the risk, especially with some plants, if you prune too early, because sometimes it's nice to leave that old hardy growth on a plant through the winter, through the cold, through all that. Because if you prune it early, then that's more exposed to those elements. So
Kevin has a little complaint, Brian.
Is it
Okay.
about Bryan?
He says that the show's going way too fast today. Can you slow it down?
Yeah, we can do that. Here, let me.
Yeah.
Yeah, dial it down.
I'm going to
And he
dial it
added
down
a-
right over here.
Added a little quote there. I didn't think growing old would come so soon.
Yeah, we dialed it
Don't
down.
we all?
I added
Don't-
an extra 5 minutes to the
Don't
show.
we
Oh,
all,
there you go.
Kevin?
I didn't know
Yes.
growing old would come so soon.
Is it getting to be too late to plant winter vegetables in Southern California?
I would say in the inland areas, yes, because I have a feeling this year we're not going to have that. This is just my own feeling. There's
Right.
really nothing behind it, but I have a feeling that come May we're going to start having like those hot days inland. I think along the coast though, you still have time. You know, in some of the cool areas, or if you have a cool area of the yard, you
Or
still
some
have
of the
time.
quick growing crops, right? You could
Yeah.
plant lettuce with no problem.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Put in lettuce, radishes, of course.
You'll have
Radishes.
radishes in 2 weeks.
Well, it'll be up in 2 days probably. But yeah, you're only looking at 30 days before you're picking radishes.
So I think Tiger's saying is come what may.
I think
in that
that
regard.
I think that we're going to have a hot season soon, and that's why I'm saying it's too late for most people.
But when you say that, then would that be followed by maybe more cool weather?
no,
You're thinking May, it's going to pick up right on through the summer.
yes,
Wow.
yes.
That's a long time.
Oh, I know, and we're going to feel it this year. I have a feeling.
You just full of
Last-
dread this morning.
Last year was rough
Yeah, it
because
was rough.
we had a late spring, right? But look at how long it lasted.
Yeah.
You know, we had dry, hot weather. Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, all that time. You know, and I can always base my feelings of the dry, hot weather in the winter because in Christmas, for doing a Christmas tree lot, we have two things to battle. One is keeping the trees fresh and damp so they don't dry out quickly. And then the other thing is,
That's because you bring them in Halloween, though.
yeah, exactly. But the other thing is we have to be prepared for rain because, you know, I mean, we're operating a tree lot. We have chainsaws. We have things that we still need to work in the rain if it does rain.
Right.
But then at the same time, we put up all these tents and all this stuff, and sometimes it doesn't rain. and so we didn't use the tents at
And
all
that's
this year.
expensive, too.
It is.
Tents are
And-
expensive.
we didn't use the tents at all this year because it never rained. It never was cool through this whole winter.
Now, are we going to pick up with more rain soon or not?
No,
No.
no rain
That's
in
it,
sight
huh?
again.
That's my prediction is
Tiger's saying that was it.
Oh,
Yeah.
come on.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Then if that's the case, we're all in trouble.
we-
Because it's not just the heat, it's the lack of rain with the upcoming heat.
right.
Because it's not enough to get into the ground.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we got into the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not.
And
how,
and
yeah, but
and in terms of
but
that
if we don't
too,
have any more, it's not going to last that long.
we also are up north got a lot of rain, so they'll ship it all down to us.
Oh, sure they will.
You know,
of
no
course.
problem at all.
We'll share our water with you.
But I don't think it's going to be hot. I don't think this summer is going to be hot either. I think it'll be dry, but I don't think it's going to be hot. So I don't think you have to worry about the heat.
Nostradamus over here.
I think he's been reading the Farmer's
I
Almanac
have
again.
Yeah,
exactly.
old Benjamin Franklin. What do you got for us, John?
Tanya says that she got distracted, so she apologizes if this was mentioned.
Okay.
I'm surprised she wasn't taking notes. Don't most of our listeners have a pad and paper?
86%.
86%, okay. She says on her iceberg roses, should she cut them back now like other roses? Yeah, now you can go ahead and cut them back, but you don't cut them back. Icebergs, unless they're too tall, you don't have to cut back as far, especially with icebergs. You know, they're almost like, I think they're classified maybe as a floribunda, but it's more like a hybrid musk. So the less cutting on them, the more flowers you're going to get. So, yeah, if you need them short, cut them shorter, but anytime now through the middle of March is a good time to prune if you're in Northern California.
They're a tough plant too, because they're a heavy feeder, because they do grow so much so quickly and produce so many flowers. They always have that kind of like yellowy tinge to the foliage, and then they don't get real thick stems. You know, like John was talking about hybrid
Right.
teas and developing those nice stems. They just always have kind of like a real thin stem that, no matter how you prune it, you end up with those, and then the plant gets a little floppy.
Lila mentions she hopes you're right because last year there was May gray and June gloom.
Yeah.
So it did not get hot.
No.
But even when it does get hot, don't we usually have May gray and June gloom?
Well,
Yeah, but it's later on. The heat seems to pick up like July on,
yeah.
for the most part. Right? September, October is still very hot.
September, October, yeah.
They're usually our hottest months.
months.
I think so.
Yeah. Definitely September. I think October is that fringe month. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, because they have the Santa Anas through October. So
Lenora in Canyon Country says it's going to be very hot.
she does. That's because she lives in an area
Well,
where
yeah,
it's always very hot.
Not only is
Yeah.
it cold, but very, very hot where she
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It's like somebody in Palm Springs mentioning it's going to be very hot.
Yeah.
Didn't Palm Springs have record heat this year?
Did they?
Was it like the
Warmest year.
118, 120?
I think it did, right?
That's like
Yeah.
Death
Yeah, was
Valley
that-
hot.
Well, no, like that was it. Like I think Death Valley's record was like 130.
That's exactly right.
Okay, and I think it hit 130 this past year, or like 129. And Palm Springs was right there too.
It's great
like John
jogging
was saying,
weather.
I think they hit their mark as far as the hottest, or they were like real close to it.
It's break time. One more segment, guys. Kevin was right. I dialed it back 5 minutes, and still flying right by. So stay with us. One more break, one more segment. Break for Biz Talk Radio. Our friends at Fertilome, thank you for tuning in to Garden America. We are coming, right around the last furlong, to borrow a horse racing term, John.
The rain's over. I'm going to go home and start working in my garden again. Got a lot to do. I noticed
Pull weeds.
We've been talking about roses. I noticed that I was cleaning the weeds out of the cans of the miniature roses, and I noticed they're all putting new growth out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Some new stems are probably like 6 to 10 inches already.
Oh wow. You mentioned Fertilome before the break, and this is a great time of year to put in the humic acid. We talked about that before. The humic products, humic acid into the soil, just helps invigorate it. But it's easy to do during the rainy time of year, the season. It's not like a fertilizer that's wasteful. It's still as good. You can put it in any time.
What about weed preventers? Do they have a garden weed preventer that you can sprinkle?
Yeah, a pre-emergent.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. John, now pre-emergents, these are a funny thing because they don't allow weeds. They don't allow seeds to germinate.
Right.
So they don't kill weeds, but they stop the production of seeds. The problematic weeds that grow from seed, they stop that cycle. And have you used that at all in your garden yet? Because you want some seed production too. Some of yours are like wildflowers, right? Or no, you're like, I would love to get rid of them all.
Yeah, I've had it. No, I on the hillside where I'm putting mulch as I plant things.
Yes.
I'm putting the weed preventer under the mulch,
Oh, nice.
sprinkling it under there, then putting the mulch on top. And areas where Iceland poppies have germinated, I'm just going around them, so they'll be fine.
Okay.
But the annual African daisies
Yes.
that you're talking about, I just said, if they don't come up, they don't
You're
come
fine.
up.
You're fine with them not coming
Right.
back.
You've seen that. I think you've seen that hillside when it was like
Yeah.
weeds maybe 4 to 6 feet tall.
Yes.
You couldn't even walk through there.
Yeah.
Anyway, done with that, Brian. We're going to make sure that everything's nice and neat.
And he's
Yeah,
got
for our spring party.
he's got
Yeah.
the areas that he mulched, it has really done a good job of keeping the weeds down.
So far.
It's really good. Now, could you put the weed preventer, the why can't I think of it?
The name?
Like what do they call the weed preventer products?
Preen?
No, but yeah, preen is the other
Pre-emergent.
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 Okay.
In the mulch, like meaning like because sometimes weed seeds will fall in the mulch.
Yeah, but you know what? If that does happen, those are real easy to pull out because the roots haven't gone down. I think that a lot of the chemicals that are pre-emergents also will kill small germinating plants.
Oh.
I don't know if they all work. There's also some natural ones like corn gluten.
Yeah, corn gluten.
My own personal opinion is it's just a waste.
Yeah.
Because they only last for 30 days. And you got to keep reapplying them.
Yeah, I definitely want to get the ones that say like 3 months.
3 months, yeah. Or I've been putting down 6 months.
Wow. Those ones are definitely killing little weeds. You might want to watch some shrubs.
Yeah.
I've also been shrubs with that one.
Digging up some roses and moving them to that hillside from an area where I really neglected them.
Oh.
It's a long.
There's a little remorse in his face right there. I saw.
It's a long, sad
story,
sorry and I'm not going to go into it right now.
You feel a little sorry for that plant,
but I do feel good when
it takes off after you plant it and take care of it.
Yeah, like it's on the verge of death.
Yeah,
and you can
salvage it and bring it back.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is bad, but as a kid, we used to go down to the end of the street on the honeysuckle bushes and catch bumblebees.
Oh, yeah.
And honeybees in a jar.
Yeah, we did that. Sure.
Yeah. And then you would, then we would take them and we'd fill the jar with water.
Oh, and drown them?
And almost drown them, but then we would dump them out on the ground and put them in the hospital. Let them recuperate.
Yeah, but you were 18 years old when you did that.
Yeah, it's like not a Jeffrey Dahmer in the making.
So that's what you're doing to your roses? You're like, I'm going to put you in this area.
It's the same type of thing, I'm just so happy to see it.
And then bring it back.
Right,
exactly.
Right. Now, with all the bees we had this fall, they just naturally were going in my bird bath. And I would every day I'd have to go out and get a little stick and... say, hey, just drink from the edge. Don't go swimming.
Yeah, exactly. Little lessons. You put little life preservers in the bird bath?
Yeah, little places they can grab onto to get out.
Paula wants to know the name of that pre-emergent that Fertilome has.
Let me see. I can find real quick.
Did we sponsor this silence? Do we have
no,
a sponsor?
You couldn't get. I was just thinking you couldn't get Dana to respond to defend herself on the
on the feeding the birds.
On feeding the birds and the squirrels, but she did pipe in with a shame on you, John.
Well, Dana, you weren't around when we talked about all the birds that you feed in the patio, the squirrel, tarpy, and the kind of seeds that you buy. What kind of seeds? What kind of birds? Because we thought you would respond to that, but then she chimes in with shame on you, John, for having those tendencies. Hey, we've got about a minute to go, and that's it, guys. Wow. You find it, Tiger?
Gallery is the one that they list.
Fertilome Gallery.
Mm-hmm. Does it come in a shaker can?
Bag. Yeah. So, and then they have ones that you can put in like your lawns that, the weed and feed products as well. And dollar weed control. Do we have dollar weed here?
No.
No, that's like a Texas thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, pre-emergent crabgrass control in Southern California needs to go down right now.
Okay, you better do it by 2:00 this afternoon.
If not earlier.
If not earlier.
Yeah.
Hey, we got to go. We got to say goodbye. Thank you so much. It was a quick show, even though Kevin had me back in about 5 minutes or so. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We are back next week, for sure. We're right back in the studio for Garden America, Biz Talk Radio, Fertilome. Thank you for all the Fertilome inquiries, coupons, we'll talk about that. We'll have Fertilome on and we'll discuss that. More Fertilome, more Garden America. I'm Bryan Main. John Begnesco, Tiger Palafox. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a safe week. And again, we are back right here in studio from iHeartMedia and Entertainment, San Diego, California. Take care.